The gunshot rang out like thunder in the dusty streets of Redemption Creek, silencing the midday commotion as Lily O'Malley felt her heart stop in her chest. It was 1877 in the Montana Territory, and she had just become the center of attention in the worst possible way. "I said she's coming with us," growled Vance Hatcher, the notorious outlaw whose gang had terrorized 3 territories. His scarred face twisted into what passed for a smile as he reached for Lily's arm. "Pretty thing like you'll fetch a fine price down in New Mexico." Lily tried to wrench away, her honey-brown hair falling loose from its pins. At 22, she'd faced her share of troubles since her father's death left her alone with their struggling general store, but nothing like this. "Take your hands off me," she hissed, though terror threatened to steal her voice. The 4 outlaws surrounding her laughed, their tobacco-stained teeth and unwashed bodies making her stomach turn. The townspeople had scattered at the first sight of trouble, leaving the street deserted except for a few faces peering fearfully from behind curtained windows. "I believe the lady declined your offer," came a calm, deep voice from behind them. The outlaws turned, and Lily's gaze followed to the tall figure standing 20 paces away. Dust clung to his worn leather boots and denim pants. A red bandana circled his neck, and beneath the shadow of his wide-brimmed hat, she caught piercing blue eyes set in a sun-weathered face. "This ain't your concern, stranger," Hatcher snarled, his hand moving to the gun at his hip. The stranger's movement was so swift Lily barely saw it happen. In one fluid motion, his revolver cleared its holster and leveled at Hatcher's chest. "She rides with me," he said, his voice carrying across the street with quiet authority. Lily had never seen him before in her life. Hatcher's eyes narrowed. "You're outnumbered, fool." "Maybe so," the stranger agreed, not lowering his weapon, "but you'll be the first to die. Ask yourself if claiming this woman is worth that price." A tense silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant call of a hawk overhead and the creak of a windmill turning at the edge of town. Lily held her breath. 4 against 1 were terrible odds, yet something in the stranger's stance, the steady hand, the unwavering gaze spoke of a man who had faced worse and lived. Hatcher spat in the dirt. "Plenty more pretty things down the trail. This one ain't worth the bullet." He jerked his head at his men. "Mount up." With reluctant mutters, the outlaws backed away, keeping their eyes on the stranger until they reached their horses. Moments later, dust clouded the air as they galloped out of town. Only when they were specks on the horizon did the stranger holster his gun. He approached Lily with measured steps, removing his hat to reveal thick waves of walnut-brown hair. "Are you hurt, madam?" he asked, his voice gentler now. Lily found herself staring. "No, thank you. You didn't have to do that. No decent man would have done different." He extended a calloused hand. "Wade Vance, just passing through." "Lily O'Malley," she replied, taking his hand. The contact sent an unexpected warmth up her arm. "And actually, Mr. Vance, I don't ride with anyone." A hint of a smile touched his lips. "Just a figure of speech to discourage unwanted company, Miss O'Malley. I assure you, your independence remains intact." For the first time since the outlaws had surrounded her, Lily felt herself relax slightly. "Well, Mr. Vance, Redemption Creek owes you a debt of gratitude. Those men have been terrorizing settlements up and down the territory." "Hatcher's gang," Wade nodded. "Been on their trail for 3 weeks." Lily's eyes widened. "You're a lawman, of a sort." He glanced around the street, which was slowly coming back to life as people emerged from hiding. "I'm a bounty hunter. Those men have prices on their heads that would make even the territorial governor take notice." A bounty hunter. Lily had heard tales of such men, neither outlaw nor lawman, living by their own code. Some were little better than the criminals they hunted. Others were said to have more honor than most badge wearers. "They'll be back," Wade continued, his eyes scanning the horizon. "Men like Hatcher don't take kindly to being challenged." "Then I suppose I should thank you again when they don't return," Lily said, trying to sound braver than she felt. Wade's expression turned serious. "They will return, Miss O'Malley. Men like that always do, and next time they won't be taking no for an answer." Before Lily could respond, the town sheriff finally appeared, his badge gleaming in the sunlight as he hurried toward them. Sheriff Tompkins was a portly man with a walrus mustache who preferred keeping the peace through negotiation rather than gunplay. "Miss O'Malley, are you all right?" he called, then eyed Wade suspiciously. "And who might you be, stranger?" Wade replaced his hat. "Just passing through, Sheriff." Tompkins' gaze hardened. "Saw you draw on those riders. We don't like trouble in Redemption Creek." "With all due respect, Sheriff," Lily interjected, "Mr. Vance saved me from Hatcher's gang while you were elsewhere." The sheriff's face reddened. "Now, Miss O'Malley, I was gathering men for a proper response. Can't just rush in against desperados like that." "Of course not," she replied coolly. Tompkins turned back to Wade. "Well, you've done your good deed, mister. Town's grateful. But if you're tracking Hatcher, best take that business elsewhere." Wade's expression remained neutral. "Just need provisions and perhaps a night's rest, Sheriff." "I'll be on my way come morning." "See that you are." Tompkins nodded curtly before tipping his hat to Lily and ambling back toward his office. Lily watched him go, anger simmering beneath her composed exterior. Sheriff Tompkins excels at arriving after danger has passed. "Common ailment among lawmen in these parts," Wade observed. Lily straightened her skirts, trying to regain some dignity. "Mr. Vance, the least I can do is offer you those provisions you mentioned. My father's general store is just down the street." Wade hesitated. "That's kind, but I insist," she said firmly. "And I make a decent cup of coffee if you've a mind for it." Something in his eyes softened. "Been a long while since I had decent coffee, Miss O'Malley." As they walked side by side down the dusty Main Street, Lily was acutely aware of the curious gazes following them. Redemption Creek was small enough that gossip traveled faster than telegraph messages, and a single woman entertaining a mysterious stranger would certainly set tongues wagging. But for once, Lily didn't care. The man beside her had stood between her and disaster when no one else would. Whatever brought Wade Vance to Redemption Creek, and whatever might come of his presence here, she owed him at least a meal and a moment's rest. What she couldn't have known was how that one moment would change everything for both of them. The O'Malley General Store sat at the corner of Main Street and Pine, a two-story wooden building with large windows displaying everything from canned goods to bolts of cloth. Above the store were the living quarters Lily had shared with her father until his passing 8 months ago. As she unlocked the door, the familiar scent of coffee beans, leather, and dried herbs greeted them. Wade removed his hat as he entered, his eyes taking in the well-organized shelves and polished counter. "You run this place alone?" he asked, noting the heavy barrels and crates that would require considerable strength to move. Lily moved behind the counter, setting a pot of coffee to boil on the small stove. "I manage. Mr. Peterson from the livery helps with the heavy deliveries. Otherwise, it's just me." Wade nodded, impressed despite himself. Most women in her position would have sold the store or married quickly for protection. "Your father taught you the business since I was tall enough to count inventory," she replied, a note of pride in her voice. "He always said a woman should be able to make her own way in the world." Wise man. He was. Sadness flickered across her face. "Pneumonia took him last winter. The doctor did what he could, but—" She busied herself with cups and saucers, pushing the memory away, Wade stood awkwardly, feeling the weight of her grief. Death was something he understood well too well, but offering comfort had never been his strong suit. "I'm sorry," he said simply. Lily glanced up, surprised by the genuine empathy in his voice. "Thank you." As she prepared their coffee, Wade took the opportunity to truly look at her. Lily O'Malley was not what most would call a conventional beauty, but there was something striking about her. Her honey-brown hair was pulled back in a practical style, though several strands had escaped during the confrontation. Her eyes were a clear, intelligent hazel that seemed to see more than most. She moved with purpose and confidence, despite the ordeal she'd just faced. "Sugar?" she asked, catching him watching her. "No, thank you, black is fine." She handed him a steaming cup and gestured to 2 chairs near the stove. "Please sit. You must be tired from the trail." Wade accepted the invitation, easing his tall frame into the wooden chair. The coffee was indeed good, strong and hot, without the bitterness he'd grown accustomed to around campfires. "This is fine coffee," he said after a satisfying sip. A small smile curved her lips. "One thing Pa insisted on, life's too short for bad coffee." "Your father sounds like a man I would have liked to know. He would have appreciated what you did today," she said quietly. "Standing up when others wouldn't." Wade shifted uncomfortably. "Don't mistake me for a hero, Miss O'Malley. I'm after the bounty on Hatcher's head, not accolades." "A man's reasons for doing right don't much matter when the result is the same," she countered. "And please call me Lily. After facing down Outlaws together, Miss O'Malley seems overly formal." He nodded, surprised by her directness. "Lily, then." A comfortable silence fell between them as they drank their coffee. Through the store windows, Wade could see townspeople going about their business, though more than a few cast curious glances toward the store. "They're wondering about you," Lily observed, following his gaze. "Redemption Creek doesn't see many strangers who can handle themselves the way you did." "Small towns have long memories and quick judgments," Wade replied. "I won't be here long enough for either to matter." Lily studied him over the rim of her cup. "Where will you go? After Hatcher, I mean." Wade's expression closed slightly. "Wherever the next bounty takes me." "That sounds like a lonely way to live." "It's a living," he said simply. Before Lily could respond, the store's bell jingled as the door opened. A woman in her 50s entered, her sharp eyes taking in the scene before her. "Lily, dear, I just heard about your terrible ordeal," she exclaimed, hurrying forward while eyeing Wade with undisguised curiosity. "Mrs. Winters," Lily greeted the woman. "News travels fast, as always. When Outlaws accost our shopkeeper in broad daylight, of course it does, Mrs." Winters turned to Wade. "And you must be the gentleman who intervened. The entire town is talking about it." Wade stood, uncomfortable with the attention. "Madam, Mrs. Winters is our town's seamstress and unofficial town crier," Lily explained with a hint of amusement. The older woman patted Lily's hand. "Someone has to keep everyone informed, dear. Now, are you certain you're all right? To think of what might have happened if this brave man hadn't been passing through." "I'm fine, truly," Lily assured her. "Mr. Vance arrived at precisely the right moment." Mrs. Winters beamed at Wade. "Then we're all in your debt, Mr. Vance. Will you be staying in Redemption Creek long?" "Just overnight," he replied. "I have business to attend to." "He's tracking Hatcher's gang," Lily added, "for the bounty." Mrs. Winters' expression faltered slightly. "A bounty hunter? Well, that's very interesting." Wade recognized the shift in her demeanor, the slight stiffening, the reassessment. He'd seen it countless times before. Folks were grateful for his kind when trouble arose, but that gratitude quickly soured to suspicion once danger passed. "If you'll excuse me," he said, setting down his empty cup. "I should see about a room at the hotel and tend to my horse." Of course, Mrs. Winters nodded, a bit too eagerly. Lily frowned. Mr. Vance, what about those provisions you needed? I'll return later, he said, donning his hat. Thank you for the coffee, Miss O'Malley. With a nod to both women, Wade stepped out into the afternoon sunlight, feeling the weight of their gazes on his back. He'd meant what he said to the sheriff he'd be gone by morning. Tracking Hatcher would be easier alone anyway, without the complications of a town's gratitude or a shopkeeper's hazel eyes making him forget, even briefly, what he was. A man who lived by the gun, hunting men who did the same. There was no room in that life for decent coffee or conversations by the stove. The sooner he remembered that, the better. Lily watched through the window as Wade Vance crossed the street to where a magnificent chestnut stallion was tethered. Even from this distance, she could see the animal was exceptionally well cared for, a telling detail about its owner. My dear, Mrs. Winters' voice interrupted her thoughts. While I certainly appreciate that man's intervention today, you would do well to keep your distance from his sort. Lily turned, one eyebrow raised. His sort, bounty hunters, Mrs. Winters said, lowering her voice despite them being alone. They're little more than hired guns, Lily, no better than the men they hunt. He saved me from being kidnapped, Lily reminded her. Or worse. Yes, and we're grateful. But a man who lives by violence rarely knows peace. Your father would want better for you. Lily's jaw tightened. Since her father's death, it seemed everyone in town had opinions about what he would have wanted for her. Sell the store. Marry the banker's son. Don't work such long hours, as if they'd known Thomas O'Malley better than his own daughter. My father taught me to judge people by their actions, not rumors or reputations, she said evenly. Mr. Vance acted honorably today. That's enough for me. Mrs. Winters sighed dramatically. You always were headstrong, just like your mother. I'm only thinking of your welfare, dear. Lily softened slightly. Mrs. Winters meant well in her meddling way. I know, but Mr. Vance will be gone tomorrow, so there's little point in worrying about his influence on me or the town. One can only hope, the older woman murmured, then brightened. Oh, I nearly forgot why I came in. Do you have that order of buttons for me? The pearl ones for Mrs. Campbell's wedding gown. Grateful for the change of subject, Lily went to retrieve the buttons, pushing thoughts of Wade Vance aside. He was, as she just assured Mrs. Winters, merely passing through her life. By this time tomorrow, he'd be gone, and Redemption Creek would return to its usual rhythms. Yet as she wrapped Mrs. Winters' purchase in brown paper, Lily couldn't help but wonder what drove a man to choose such a solitary, dangerous existence. What had Wade Vance seen or experienced that led him to hunt killers for bounty? There had been something in his eyes, a shadow of something painful that suggested his choice was born of more than simple profit. Not that it mattered, she reminded herself firmly. His reasons were his own, just as her life was hers. Their paths had crossed briefly, nothing more. But as evening approached and the store emptied of customers, Lily found herself watching the door, waiting for his return. Wade stood at the bar of the Silverado Saloon, nursing a whiskey and ignoring the curious glances from the other patrons. Word of his confrontation with Hatcher's gang had spread through Redemption Creek like wildfire, and he could feel the mixture of respect and wariness directed his way. He'd secured a room at the modest hotel across the street, paid for a hot bath, and now was simply killing time before heading back to the general store for supplies. Part of him wondered if he should just leave now, ride through the night to put distance between himself and the town. Between himself and Lily O'Malley. That woman unsettled him, though he couldn't say exactly why. Perhaps it was the directness of her gaze or the quiet strength she displayed. Most women he encountered either feared him or saw him as some romantic notion of a dangerous hero. Lily had done neither. She'd simply treated him like a regular man deserving of coffee and conversation. "Whiskey not to your liking?" asked a deep voice beside him. Wade glanced over to see a tall, broad-shouldered man with silver streaking his dark beard. The stranger wore no gun, but his weathered hand spoke of someone familiar with hard work. "It's fine," Wade replied, taking another sip. "Name's Matthias Peterson," the man said, extending a hand. "Run the livery at the edge of town." Wade shook his hand. "Wade Vance." "I know who you are," Peterson nodded. "Heard what you did for Miss O'Malley today. Been worried about her being alone in that store since her father passed." Wade recalled Lily mentioning Peterson helped with deliveries. "You know her well." "Known her since she was knee-high to a grasshopper," Peterson confirmed. "Thomas O'Malley was a good friend. I promised him I'd keep an eye on Lily, but she's mighty independent, doesn't like folks hovering." "Seems capable enough," Peterson chuckled. "That she is. Smartest person in town, man or woman. But these are dangerous times, especially for a woman alone." He studied Wade thoughtfully. "You tracking those outlaws that came through?" Wade nodded. "Hatcher's got a $500 bounty. His men are worth almost as much combined." The livery owner whistled low. "That's a fair sum. You've been hunting bounty long, 5 years, Wade said, not elaborating. Peterson seemed to sense his reluctance to talk. "Well, I won't pry. Just wanted to thank you for what you did today. Lily's special to this town, whether she knows it or not." Wade nodded, uncomfortable with the gratitude. He hadn't acted out of nobility, he'd been tracking Hatcher anyway, and the confrontation in town had simply been an opportunity to get closer to his quarry. Except that wasn't entirely true, was it? He could have waited, stayed hidden, followed the gang out of town. Instead, he'd drawn on 4 armed men to protect a woman he didn't know. "Another?" the bartender asked, gesturing to Wade's empty glass. "No," Wade replied, placing a coin on the counter. "Thank you." Peterson watched as he prepared to leave. "If you're heading out after those outlaws, you should know they've been spotted using an abandoned mining camp in the foothills as a hideout, about 15 miles northwest of here." Wade paused. "That's useful information." "Why are you sharing it?" The older man's expression hardened. "Because Hatcher and his boys murdered my nephew last spring when they robbed the stage to Helena. Law's done nothing about it. Maybe you will." Now Wade understood. This wasn't just about Lily O'Malley. Peterson had his own reasons for wanting Hatcher brought down. "I intend to," Wade assured him. Peterson nodded. "Good hunting to you, then." Wade left the saloon, stepping into the early evening air. The sun was beginning its descent, painting the western sky in brilliant oranges and reds. He needed to gather supplies quickly if he wanted to set out at first light. As he crossed the street toward the general store, Wade couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. His instincts, honed through years of tracking dangerous men, were prickling at the back of his neck. He paused, scanning the quiet street. Nothing seemed out of place, yet the sensation persisted. Then he saw a glint of metal from the alley beside the general store, a rifle barrel catching the last rays of sunlight. Wade's hand moved to his revolver as his eyes tracked up to the store's second-floor windows. Through the glass, he could just make out Lily moving about what must be her living quarters. She was the target. Without hesitation, Wade drew his gun and ran toward the store, calling out a warning. "Lily, get down!" The first shot rang out as he reached the boardwalk, the bullet splintering the wood near his feet. Wade returned fire, aiming for the shadowy figure in the alley. He heard a grunt of pain and the clatter of a dropped rifle. Inside the store, a lamp crashed to the floor as Lily presumably took cover. Wade pressed himself against the building's exterior, breathing hard. One shooter down, but his instincts told him there would be more. Hatcher wouldn't send just one man. Wade. Lily's voice came from inside, tight with fear. Stay down, he called back. Hatcher's men are here. A second shot cracked through the air, this one from the roof of the building opposite. The bullet shattered the store's front window, sending glass spraying across the interior. "Lily, are you hit?" Wade shouted. "No," came her reply from somewhere near the counter. "I'm all right." Wade calculated his options. He was exposed on the boardwalk, and the shooters had the advantage of higher ground. He needed to get inside the store without making himself an easy target. Taking a deep breath, he fired twice at the rooftop shooter to force him to duck, then lunged for the store's door. He crashed through it as another bullet whistled past his ear, rolling behind a barrel of flour as he entered. Lily was crouched behind the counter, a shotgun in her hands. Her face was pale but determined. "Where did that come from?" she asked breathlessly. "Your father's." Wade nodded at the shotgun. "Yes," she confirmed. "I know how to use it." Wade believed her. The way she held the weapon showed familiarity. "There are at least two of them. One in the alley, I think I winged him, and another on the roof across the street." As if to confirm his assessment, more bullets thudded into the storefront, embedding themselves in the walls and counters. "They're trying to flush us out," Wade muttered, Lily's jaw set. "This is my store, my home. I'm not going anywhere." Despite the danger, Wade felt a flicker of admiration. "We need a plan. Is there a back door?" "Yes, through the storeroom. It leads to a small yard with an outhouse. There's a gate to the alley." "The same alley where one of them is waiting," Wade frowned. "Any other exits?" Lily thought for a moment. "The upstairs windows. There's a sloped roof over the side porch. From there, it's about a 6-foot drop to the ground." Wade nodded. "That might work. If we can make it upstairs without being seen from the windows." A voice from outside interrupted them. "Vance, we know you're in there. Send out the woman and we'll let you live." Wade and Lily exchanged glances. "That's Cal Weber," Wade said quietly. "Hatcher's second in command." "What does he want with me?" Lily whispered. "A message to the town, and to me." Wade's expression darkened. "Hatcher doesn't like being challenged. Taking you would hurt the town and show I couldn't protect you." Another volley of bullets punctuated his words, one coming dangerously close to their position. "We need to move," Wade decided. "Can we get upstairs without being seen from the front windows?" Lily nodded. "The stairs are at the back in the storeroom. Lead the way." Staying low, Lily crawled toward the rear of the store, Wade following close behind. They reached a door behind the counter that opened into a storage area filled with crates, barrels, and sacks of supplies. "The stairs are there." Lily pointed to a narrow staircase along the back wall. Wade helped her to her feet, and they hurried up the steps as another fusillade of bullets hit the storefront. The upper floor was a simple but comfortable living space, a small parlor with a stove, a kitchen area, a curtained-off bedroom, and a washroom. "Which window faces the side porch?" Wade asked. Lily led him to one in the parlor. "This one." "But Wade, once we're out, where do we go? They have the street covered." It was a good question. They couldn't simply flee into town, they'd be exposed in the open street. And they couldn't stay here, pinned down as the outlaws gradually closed in. "Peterson, the livery owner, mentioned Hatcher's gang has been using an abandoned mining camp in the foothills," Wade said, formulating a plan. "If we can reach the livery, get horses, we might be able to circle around and surprise them at their own hideout." "That's your plan?" Lily stared at him incredulously. "Ride straight to an outlaw hideout. They won't expect it," Wade pointed out. "Most of them are here trying to get to you. The camp will be lightly defended, if at all." Lily bit her lip, considering. "And if we stay here, they'll keep coming until they get what they want." Another shot rang out, this one hitting the ceiling below them. They were running out of time. "All right," Lily agreed, "but I'll need a moment." She disappeared behind the bedroom curtain, returning moments later with a leather satchel. She had changed from her shop dress into a simple blouse and riding skirt, with sturdy boots replacing her previous footwear. Wade raised an eyebrow. "If we're fleeing outlaws, I'd prefer not to do it in a corset and petticoats," she explained practically. He couldn't argue with that logic. "Ready," Lily nodded, gripping her shotgun firmly. Wade opened the window carefully, checking for any sign of watchful eyes. The sloped roof of the side porch stretched about 10 feet to the edge, and below was a narrow alley separating the general store from the neighboring building. "I'll go first," Wade said. "Once I'm down, I'll cover you." He eased through the window onto the slanted roof, keeping low to avoid being spotted from the street. The wooden shingles were still warm from the day's sun as he crawled to the edge. After a quick glance to ensure the alley was clear, Wade lowered himself and dropped the short distance to the ground, landing in a crouch. Drawing his revolver, he surveyed both ends of the alley before signaling to Lily. She appeared at the window, set her shotgun on the roof, then climbed out with surprising agility. Recovering her weapon, she made her way to the edge where Wade waited below. "Drop the satchel first," he instructed quietly. She did so, then positioned herself to follow. Wade held up his arms to catch her, and Lily pushed off, landing against his chest with enough force to make him step back. For a brief moment, they were pressed together, her hands on his shoulders, his arms around her waist. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them before Wade set her gently on her feet. "The livery is 4 buildings down," Lily whispered, reclaiming her satchel and shotgun. "If we follow this alley to the end, we can cut behind the bathhouse and reach it from the rear." Wade nodded. "Stay close." They moved swiftly down the alley, pausing at intersections to check for danger. The sun had set, and twilight shadows offered some concealment as they navigated behind the row of businesses. As they approached the end of the alley, Wade suddenly threw out an arm, stopping Lily in her tracks. Ahead, a figure moved in the growing darkness, the cherry glow of a cigarette illuminating a bearded face, one of Hatcher's men, guarding the alley exit. Wade signaled for Lily to stay put, then crept forward silently. The outlaw never heard him coming. With a swift movement, Wade brought the butt of his revolver down on the man's head, catching him as he crumpled and dragging him deeper into the shadows. "Clear," he whispered, and Lily hurried to join him. They crossed to the bathhouse, staying in its shadow as they skirted around to the back. The livery was now visible across a small open area, its large doors closed for the night. A lamp burned in a ground-floor window, likely Peterson's quarters. "We'll have to make a run for it," Wade murmured, studying the open space between them and safety. Lily tensed beside him. "Ready when you are," Wade took her hand. "On 3, 1, 2, 3, they sprinted across the open ground, boots pounding on the hard, packed earth. Halfway across, a shout went up from somewhere behind them, followed by the crack of a rifle. "They've spotted us," Wade yelled, pulling Lily faster. They reached the rear door of the livery as more shots rang out, bullets kicking up dust at their heels. Wade yanked the door open, pushed Lily through, then followed, slamming it shut behind them. "Peterson," he called into the dim interior, which smelled of hay, leather, and horses. The livery owner appeared from his quarters, a lantern in hand. "Vance." "What in tarnation?" His eyes widened at the sight of Lily. "Miss O'Malley, are you hurt?" "No, but Hatcher's men are attacking my store," Lily explained breathlessly. "They're after us now." Peterson's expression hardened. "Damned outlaws, what do you need?" "Horses," Wade replied. "Fast ones." "And a head start." Outside, voices approached the livery, accompanied by the sound of running footsteps. "Take my gelding for Miss O'Malley," Peterson said, already moving to a stall, "and the bay mare for yourself. They're both trail-ready." As Peterson quickly saddled the horses, Wade checked his ammunition. He had less than half a box of cartridges remaining, not enough for an extended firefight. "Lily, can you shoot that shotgun from horseback?" he asked. She nodded grimly. "If I have to." Peterson handed her the reins to a strong-looking black gelding. "Midnight here is steady under fire. He won't spook." "Thank you, Mr. Peterson," Lily said, mounting with practiced ease that surprised Wade. "My father believed a woman should know how to ride properly, not just side-saddle," she explained, catching his expression. Peterson brought the bay mare to Wade. "There's a trail that leads up into the foothills from behind the sawmill. It's not well known. Might give you an advantage." Wade swung into the saddle. "We're heading for their camp. It's our best chance." Peterson looked alarmed. "That's mighty risky." "Staying here is riskier," Wade countered. "We'll circle back when it's safe." A crash against the front doors of the livery indicated their pursuers had arrived. "Go out the back way," Peterson urged, opening a large rear door that led to a corral. "I'll hold them off as long as I can." "Be careful," Lily told him. "These men won't hesitate to kill." Peterson picked up a shotgun from beside his quarters. "Neither will I, Miss Lily." "Not when it comes to protecting what matters." Wade nodded his thanks to the man, then led the way through the door into the corral. They circled to a gate at the rear, which opened onto a path leading away from town. Behind them, they heard Peterson's shotgun blast twice, followed by yells and curses. Whatever he'd done had bought them precious time. "This way," Wade called softly, urging his horse into a trot along the darkened path. Lily followed close behind, her back straight and determined in the saddle. As they reached the edge of town, Wade glanced back at the collection of buildings that formed Redemption Creek. From this distance, it looked peaceful, with lamps glowing in windows and smoke rising from chimneys against the deepening twilight sky. But for Lily O'Malley, it was no longer safe. Not until Hatcher and his gang were dealt with permanently, Wade turned his attention to the trail ahead, which wound up into the pine-covered foothills. The night would be dark with the new moon, giving them cover but also making the unfamiliar terrain treacherous. "Stay close," he called to Lily. "The trail gets narrow ahead." She guided her horse alongside his. "I know these hills. My father and I used to ride here." Wade studied her in the fading light. The shopkeeper's daughter continued to surprise him. "Then lead the way, Miss O'Malley." With a nod, Lily urged Midnight forward, taking the lead along the winding trail. As they climbed higher into the foothills, the lights of Redemption Creek faded behind them, and the vast wilderness of the Montana Territory opened up before them. For better or worse, they were in this together now. The night grew colder as they climbed higher into the foothills, the trail becoming steeper and more difficult to navigate in the darkness. Pine trees loomed on either side, their branches swaying in the light breeze, creating shadows that played tricks on the eye. Wade kept his senses alert, listening for any sign of pursuit. So far, they'd heard nothing beyond the natural sounds of the wilderness: the hoot of an owl, the distant howl of a coyote, the whisper of wind through the trees. Lily rode slightly ahead, guiding them with a confidence that impressed him. She sat easily in the saddle, moving in rhythm with her mount as they traversed the uneven terrain. "There's a clearing up ahead," she called back softly. "With a small stream, we should rest the horses." Wade nodded his agreement. They'd been riding hard for nearly 2 hours, and both animals and riders needed a break. The clearing was a small meadow surrounded by pines, with a narrow stream gurgling along one side. Under different circumstances, it would have been a pleasant spot to camp for the night. Now, It represented only a brief respite in their flight. They dismounted, leading the horses to the stream to drink. Wade kept his revolver ready, scanning the perimeter as Lily tended to the animals. "Do you think they followed us?" she asked, keeping her voice low. "Not yet," Wade replied. "But they will. Hatcher's a skilled tracker and he won't give up easily." Lily stroked Midnight's neck as the gelding drank deeply from the stream. "You know him well," Wade's expression hardened. "Well enough." Something in his tone made Lily study him more closely. "This is personal for you, isn't it? Not just about the bounty." Wade didn't answer immediately, weighing how much to share with this woman he barely knew, yet who now depended on him for protection. "Hatcher and his gang raided a settlement in Wyoming territory 2 years ago," he finally said, his voice flat. "Killed everyone. Men, women, children, 15 people in all." Lily's hand flew to her mouth. "That's horrible." "My sister lived there," Wade continued, the words feeling like stones in his throat. "She and her husband had a small ranch. Their boy was just 6. Understanding dawned in Lily's eyes. "Oh, Wade, I'm so sorry." He turned away, uncomfortable with her compassion. "The law couldn't catch them." "Wouldn't maybe. So I learned to track, to hunt, to shoot better, faster." "You became a bounty hunter to find your sister's killers," Lily said softly. "I became what I needed to be," Wade corrected her. "And I've tracked down 3 of the 6 men responsible so far. Hatcher's the 4th." Lily was quiet for a moment, absorbing this. Then she asked, "What will you do when you've found them all?" It was a question Wade rarely allowed himself to consider. "Don't know," he admitted. "Haven't thought that far ahead." "Perhaps you should," she suggested gently. Before Wade could respond, Midnight suddenly raised his head, ears pricked forward alertly. A moment later, Wade heard it too, the distant sound of horses moving through the forest. "They've found our trail," he said, immediately alert. "We need to move." They quickly remounted, but instead of returning to the main trail, Wade led them across the stream and into the dense forest on the other side. "The mining camp is still several miles northwest," Lily whispered as they picked their way through the trees. "We can't go there now," Wade replied. "Not with them on our trail. We need to find a place to hole up until morning." They traveled in silence for another half-hour, moving deeper into the wilderness. The forest grew thicker, the terrain more challenging, but it offered better concealment from their pursuers. Finally, Wade spotted what he was looking for, a rocky outcropping that formed a small, cave-like shelter beneath an overhanging ledge. It wasn't ideal, but it would provide cover for the remainder of the night. "In there," he indicated. "We can rest until dawn." They dismounted, leading the horses into the natural shelter. It was tight with both animals inside, but the outcropping provided good protection from the elements and concealed them from view. Wade helped Lily unsaddle the horses while keeping his ears tuned for any sound of pursuit. The distant noise of hoofbeats had faded, suggesting their trackers had lost their trail at the stream, at least temporarily. "We should be safe here for a few hours," he said, spreading his bedroll on the hard ground. "I'll take first watch." Lily nodded, looking suddenly exhausted as the adrenaline of their escape began to wear off. She sank down onto the bedroll Wade had laid out, wrapping her arms around herself against the growing chill. Wade shrugged out of his coat and offered it to her. "Here. Nights get cold up here." "What about you?" she asked, hesitating. "I'm used to it." After a brief moment, she accepted the coat with a grateful smile, drawing it around her shoulders. The garment engulfed her smaller frame, but the warmth it provided was evident in her relieved sigh. Wade settled at the entrance to their makeshift shelter, his revolver across his lap and his rifle propped within easy reach. From this position, he could see anyone approaching long before they reached the outcropping. Behind him, Lily shifted on the bedroll, trying to find a comfortable position on the unyielding ground. "You should try to sleep," Wade advised. "Tomorrow will be another long day." "I'm not sure I can," she admitted. "It's not every day I'm forced to flee my home with a bounty hunter I just met." Despite the gravity of their situation, Wade felt the corner of his mouth twitch upward. "When you put it that way, it does sound rather improper." Lily's soft laugh was unexpected and warming. "I suppose Mrs. Winters was right to be concerned about my reputation after all." They fell silent again, with only the sounds of the forest and the occasional shifting of the horses filling the space between them. After a while, Wade assumed Lily had fallen asleep until her voice came again, quieter this time. "Wade, thank you for coming back for me. For not riding out of town when you could have." Something in her words made his chest tighten. It had been a long time since anyone had thanked him for anything beyond collecting a bounty. "Get some sleep, Lily," he said gently. "I'll wake you when it's your turn to watch." He heard her settle again, and within minutes, her breathing became deep and regular. Wade turned his attention back to the forest before them, his mind processing all that had happened since he'd ridden into Redemption Creek that morning. He'd come looking for Vance Hatcher, seeking justice for his sister's family. Instead, he'd found himself protecting a shopkeeper with courage that matched her beauty, fleeing into the wilderness with her as outlaws gave chase. It wasn't how he'd planned to capture Hatcher, but plans rarely survived first contact with reality. All he could do now was keep Lily safe and find a way to turn the tables on their pursuers. As the night deepened around them, Wade allowed himself a moment to glance back at the sleeping woman. In repose, her face looked younger, the worry lines smoothed away. A strand of honey-brown hair had fallen across her cheek, and he resisted the strange urge to brush it away. Instead, he turned back to his vigil, wondering why the simple sound of her breathing behind him made him feel less alone than he had in years. The first hint of dawn was lightening the eastern sky when Wade gently shook Lily's shoulder. She woke instantly, her hand reaching for the shotgun beside her before she fully registered where she was. "Easy," Wade murmured. "It's just me." Lily blinked sleep from her eyes, her features relaxing as recognition dawned. "Is it morning already?" "Almost." "No sign of Hatcher's men during the night, but we should move soon. They'll be back on our trail at first light." She sat up, returning his coat with a small smile of thanks. "I should have taken a watch. You didn't wake me." Wade shrugged as he donned the garment, still warm from her body. "You needed the rest more than I did. And you don't trust me to keep watch," she added perceptively. "It's not a matter of trust," he corrected her. "It's experience. I can track small movements in the dark that most people would miss." Lily stood, wincing slightly as she stretched her stiff muscles. "What's our plan now?" Wade had been considering this question throughout the night. "We still head for the mining camp, but carefully. If we can confirm Hatcher's using it as a base, we might be able to set a trap rather than walking into one." "And if we can't?" Lily asked, helping him saddle the horses. "Then we'll skirt around it and make for the next town over Silver Creek. Get help from the marshal there." Lily nodded her agreement, though Wade noted the flash of determination in her eyes. She wasn't looking to simply escape. She wanted Hatcher and his men dealt with so she could return to her home. They ate a quick breakfast of jerky and dried fruit from Wade's saddlebags, then mounted up as the forest around them brightened with the new day. The horses were rested and eager to move, stepping lively as they navigated through the trees. Wade took the lead this time, following game trails where possible to mask their passage. Lily rode close behind, her shotgun resting across her saddle horn, ready if needed. As the sun rose higher, the terrain began to change. The forest thinned, giving way to rocky slopes and steeper inclines. According to Peterson's directions, the abandoned mining camp lay in a small valley just beyond the next ridge. Wade signaled for Lily to stop as they approached the crest. "I'll scout ahead. Wait here." She nodded, taking Midnight's reins as Wade dismounted and moved forward on foot, staying low to avoid being silhouetted against the sky. At the ridge top, he lay flat, working his way to a position where he could look down into the valley beyond. The mining camp was immediately visible, a collection of weathered wooden structures nestled against the valley wall. A main building that had likely served as an office and bunkhouse, several smaller outbuildings, and the dark mouth of a mine shaft. 4 horses were hitched outside the main building, and smoke rose from its chimney. Wade counted 2 men visible in the camp, one chopping wood near an outbuilding, the other sitting on the porch cleaning a rifle. Neither was Hatcher, but Wade recognized them from his wanted posters. Frank Dobbs and Elijah Cole, both known members of Hatcher's gang. That left Hatcher himself and at least 2 others unaccounted for, possibly still searching for them in the hills. Wade retreated carefully from the ridgeline and returned to where Lily waited with the horses. "The camp's occupied," he confirmed. "At least 2 of Hatcher's men, maybe more inside." "What do we do?" Lily asked, her voice steady despite the danger they faced. Wade considered their options. With only 2 visible men, they had a numerical advantage at the moment. But a frontal assault would be risky, especially if there were others inside the building. "We need to get closer," he decided. "There's a cluster of boulders about halfway down the slope that would give us cover. From there, we might be able to pick them off one by one." Lily frowned. "Is there no way to take them alive? Bring them to justice properly?" Wade studied her. Even now, facing men who had tried to kidnap her and had shot up her store, Lily still held to principles of proper justice. It was admirable, if somewhat impractical given their circumstances. "My priority is keeping you safe," he said simply. "But if the opportunity arises to take them alive, I will." She nodded, seemingly satisfied with this compromise. They left the horses secured in a small copse of trees, then made their way carefully down the slope toward the mining camp. Wade led the way, choosing a path that offered the most cover while giving them a clear line of retreat if needed. The cluster of boulders he'd spotted provided excellent concealment, positioned about 100 yards from the main building. From this vantage point, they had a clear view of the entire camp. "There are still only 2 men visible," Wade whispered as they settled behind the largest boulder. "The one on the porch is Cole. The woodcutter is Dobbs." "What about Hatcher?" Lily asked, peering cautiously around the rock. "No sign of him yet. He might be inside or still out looking for us." Wade studied the camp, formulating a plan. If they could somehow separate the 2 visible men, they might be able to take them one at a time, then approach the main building from different directions. As he considered their options, the door to the main building swung open, and a 3rd man emerged onto the porch. Tall and broad-shouldered, with a distinctive scar running from his right eye to his jawline, he was instantly recognizable. "Hatcher," Wade breathed, his hand tightening on his revolver. Lily tensed beside him. "He was in town yesterday, the one who tried to grab me." Hatcher called something to Dobbs, who set down his axe and approached the porch. The 3 men conferred briefly. Then Dobbs and Cole mounted 2 of the horses and rode out of camp, heading east back toward Redemption Creek. "They're going back to town," Lily whispered, alarmed. "Why would they do that?" Wade's mind raced. "Reinforcements, maybe. Or they're planning to use the town as leverage. Leverage, if they can't find us, they might threaten the town to draw us out." Wade's expression darkened. "It's a tactic Hatcher's used before." Lily's face paled. "We have to stop them." "We will," Wade assured her. "But right now, Hatcher's alone in that camp. This might be our best chance to take him." She hesitated, clearly torn between concern for the town and the opportunity before them. "If we capture Hatcher," Wade reasoned, "his men will have no leader. They'll be disorganized, easier to deal with." After a moment, Lily nodded her agreement. "What's your plan?" Wade studied the camp again. Hatcher had returned inside the main building, leaving the area momentarily deserted. "I'll circle around to the back," he explained. "You stay here and keep watch. If Hatcher comes out or if anyone else arrives, fire a shot into the air as warning." "You want me to stay behind?" Lily frowned. "I need someone watching my back," Wade countered. "And this way, if something goes wrong, you can get away." She didn't look entirely convinced, but nodded reluctantly. "Be careful." Wade checked his revolver, ensuring all chambers were loaded. "If you don't hear from me in 15 minutes, head back to the horses and ride for Silver Creek. Don't come looking for me." "Wade, promise me, Lily." Her hazel eyes met his, filled with concern and something else he couldn't quite identify. "I promise. 15 minutes, not a second more." Satisfied, Wade slipped away from their hiding place, working his way around the perimeter of the camp. He moved from cover to cover, using the terrain to mask his approach. The back of the main building had a single door and 2 windows, all closed. Wade crept closer, staying low as he approached the nearest window. Carefully, he raised himself just enough to peer inside. The interior was a large open space with a central wood stove, several bunks along one wall, and a table with chairs in the center. Hatcher was seated at the table, his back to the window, cleaning a revolver. He appeared to be alone. Wade weighed his options. He could try to enter through the door, but the hinges might squeak and alert Hatcher. The window was partially open at the bottom, possibly enough for him to slip through if he was careful. Decision made, Wade holstered his revolver and slowly, silently raised the window higher. It moved smoothly, without sound. When the opening was large enough, he hoisted himself up and through, landing softly on the wooden floor inside. Hatcher didn't turn. He continued methodically cleaning his weapon, seemingly oblivious to Wade's presence. Wade drew his revolver and stepped forward. "Don't move, Hatcher, it's over." The outlaw leader froze, then slowly raised his hands, the disassembled revolver parts still clutched in his fingers. "Well, well, Wade Vance himself, I've been expecting you." "Drop the gun parts and turn around, slowly." Hatcher complied, setting the pieces on the table and turning to face Wade. His scarred face twisted into a cold smile. "You've been on my trail for what, 3 weeks now? Persistent, I'll give you that. Where are the rest of your men?" Wade demanded, keeping his revolver trained on Hatcher's chest. "Around," Hatcher shrugged. "Doesn't matter, you won't be leaving here alive." Wade's eyes narrowed. "You seem awfully confident for a man with a gun pointed at his heart." Hatcher's smile widened. "Let's just say I know something you don't, Vance." A floorboard creaked behind Wade, and he realized his mistake too late. The camp hadn't been empty after all. Before he could turn, something heavy struck the back of his head, sending him crashing to his knees as pain exploded through his skull. His revolver slipped from his grasp, clattering to the floor. Through the haze of pain, Wade heard Hatcher laugh. "You always were too focused on your quarry to watch your back, Vance. That's why I sent Dobbs and Cole out so obviously. Knew you'd think I was alone." Wade fought to stay conscious as rough hands grabbed his arms, hauling him upright. His vision cleared enough to see a 4th man he hadn't accounted for: Cal Weber, Hatcher's second in command, the same man who had called out to them from outside the general store. "Where's the woman?" Hatcher demanded, retrieving Wade's revolver from the floor. Wade remained silent, earning himself a vicious backhand from Weber that split his lip. She's worth more to us alive, Hatcher continued, circling Wade like a predator. But you're just worth the satisfaction of watching you die slow. Outside, a shotgun blast suddenly tore through the air, followed by a scream of pain. Hatcher and Weber exchanged alarmed glances. What the hell? Weber started toward the door. Another shot rang out, closer this time, and the front window of the cabin exploded inward, showering the room with glass. Taking advantage of the distraction, Wade drove his elbow into Weber's stomach, then headbutted him as the man doubled over. Weber staggered back and Wade wrenched free of his grasp. Hatcher raised Wade's own revolver, but before he could fire, the back door burst open. Lily stood framed in the doorway, her shotgun leveled at Hatcher's chest, her eyes blazing with determination. "Drop it," she commanded, her voice steady as steel, "or the next shot takes your head off." For a moment no one moved. Then, slowly, Hatcher lowered the revolver, letting it fall to the floor. "Kick it away," Lily instructed, not taking her eyes off him. Hatcher complied, sending the weapon skittering across the wooden planks toward Wade, who quickly retrieved it. "The woman of the hour," Hatcher said, eyeing Lily with a mixture of anger and grudging respect. "You've caused me quite a bit of trouble, Miss O'Malley." "The feeling's mutual," Lily replied coldly. Wade, now armed again, moved to secure Weber, who was still gasping for breath on the floor. "I told you to stay hidden," he said to Lily, though there was no real reproach in his tone. "And I promised 15 minutes, she countered. "It's been 14. Despite the danger they were still in, Wade felt a smile tug at his lips. This woman continued to surprise him at every turn. With both Hatcher and Weber disarmed and at gunpoint, Wade used rope from the cabin to bind their hands behind their backs. A search of the building revealed no other gang members present. Hatcher had been bluffing about having more men around. "We need to move quickly," Wade said as he finished securing the Outlaws. "Dobbs and Cole will be heading back to town. If we're going to stop them, we need to ride now." Lily nodded, keeping her shotgun trained on the prisoners. "What about these two?" Wade considered their options. They couldn't take Hatcher and Weber with them, the pursuit would be too slow, but leaving them behind, even bound, was risky. "We'll lock them in the mine shaft," he decided. "It's secure, and they won't freeze overnight." Hatcher's eyes narrowed. "You think this is over, Vance? My boys will tear that town apart looking for you." "Then I guess we'd better find them first," Wade replied evenly. With Lily covering them, Wade marched the two outlaws to the abandoned mine entrance. The shaft was secured with a heavy wooden door and iron bars likely installed to keep curious settlers out after the mine was closed. Once the prisoners were inside, Wade locked the door with a heavy padlock he found among the mining equipment. It wouldn't hold forever, but it would keep Hatcher and Weber contained long enough for them to deal with the remaining gang members. "That should hold them," Wade said, pocketing the key. Lily lowered her shotgun, the adrenaline that had sustained her beginning to ebb. "We need to warn the town about Dobbs and Cole." Wade nodded, his expression grim. "They have a head start, but we might be able to intercept them if we take a different route. There's a ridge trail that runs more directly to Redemption Creek than the main path." They hurried back to where they'd left their horses. As they mounted up, Wade noticed Lily wince slightly, her hand going to her side. "You're hurt," he said, concern evident in his voice. She shook her head. "Just a scratch. One of them got off a shot as I approached the cabin. The bullet grazed my side, nothing more." Wade frowned, unconvinced. "Let me see." Reluctantly, Lily opened her coat to reveal a torn blouse with a thin line of blood staining the fabric along her ribs. Wade dismounted and approached her horse. "This needs to be bandaged or the riding will make it worse." "We don't have time," Lily protested. Redemption Creek. We'll still be there in 10 minutes, Wade finished firmly. He retrieved a clean bandana from his saddlebag and a small flask of whiskey. This will sting. Lily bit her lip but didn't cry out as he carefully cleaned the wound with the whiskey. The graze was shallow, as she'd claimed, but still needed attention. Wade worked quickly, wrapping the bandana around her midsection as a makeshift bandage. His fingers brushed against her skin as he secured the knot, and he felt her sharp intake of breath. Their eyes met briefly, and something unspoken passed between them again, a current of awareness that had nothing to do with their present danger. Wade cleared his throat and stepped back. That should hold until we can get you proper care. Thank you, Lily said softly. They remounted and set off down the ridge trail, pushing their horses as fast as the rough terrain would allow. The path was steep and narrow in places, requiring all their concentration to navigate safely. As they rode, Wade found his thoughts divided between their urgent mission to save Redemption Creek and the woman riding beside him. Lily O'Malley had proven herself far more than just a shopkeeper. She was brave, resourceful, and determined, qualities Wade had rarely encountered in anyone, let alone someone who had been thrust so suddenly into danger. And despite everything, despite the violence and chaos that had disrupted her life, she still held to her principles. She'd insisted on taking Hatcher and Weber alive when it would have been easier and perhaps safer to simply shoot them. Wade couldn't remember the last time he'd met anyone who made him question his own hardened approach to justice. Yet in less than 2 days, Lily had managed to do exactly that. The ridge trail eventually joined a wider path that would lead them directly to Redemption Creek. They were making good time, and Wade dared to hope they might reach town before Dobbs and Cole could cause any harm. But as they crested a hill overlooking the settlement, Wade's hope turned to ash. A plume of smoke was rising from the eastern edge of town, thick, dark smoke that could only mean one thing. Fire, Lily gasped, horror evident in her voice. They spurred their horses forward, racing down the slope toward Redemption Creek, uncertain of what they would find but determined to face it together. The smoke grew thicker as they approached the outskirts of Redemption Creek, billowing into the afternoon sky. Now they could hear shouts and the distant crack of gunfire. "It's coming from the lumber yard," Lily called out, recognizing the location of the fire. Near Peterson's livery, they urged their mounts faster, dust kicking up beneath pounding hooves as they entered the eastern edge of town. Residents were rushing about with buckets of water, forming lines to combat the blaze that had engulfed one of the lumber storage sheds. Others were taking cover as sporadic gunfire continued. Wade scanned the chaotic scene, searching for Dobbs and Cole among the crowd. He spotted Sheriff Tompkins crouched behind a water trough, exchanging shots with someone positioned on a rooftop. There, Lily pointed toward the mercantile across from the lumber yard. A figure was visible on its roof, rifle in hand. "That's Cole," Wade confirmed grimly. "Dobbs must be nearby." They reined in their horses behind the relative safety of the blacksmith shop. Wade quickly formulated a plan. "I'll circle around to get a better angle on Cole. You find Peterson or the sheriff. Let them know what's happening." Lily shook her head. "I'm coming with you." "Lily, this is my town, Wade," she said firmly. "These people are my friends and neighbors. I won't hide while they're in danger." Wade recognized the determination in her eyes, the same look she'd had when she'd burst into the mining cabin to save him. Arguing would only waste precious time. "Stay low and follow my lead," he conceded. "We'll approach from the alley behind the mercantile." They left their horses secured and moved carefully through the side streets, avoiding the open areas where they might be spotted. The smell of smoke grew stronger, and the sounds of shouting and gunfire more distinct as they neared the center of the conflict. The alley behind the mercantile was empty, giving them a clear path to the rear of the building. A ladder leaned against the wall, Cole's means of access to the roof. "I'll go up," Wade said quietly. "You cover the back door in case Dobbs is inside." Lily nodded, readying her shotgun. "Be careful. Cole's a good shot." "So am I," Wade replied with a grim smile. He ascended the ladder silently, drawing his revolver as he neared the top. When he reached the edge of the roof, he paused, listening for movement. Cole was at the front, focused on the street below, unaware of Wade's approach. With practiced stealth, Wade pulled himself onto the roof and crept forward, staying low to avoid casting a shadow. Cole was lying prone, his rifle braced on the roof's edge as he took aim at someone in the street. Wade closed the distance between them, then pressed the barrel of his revolver against the back of Cole's head. "Drop the rifle. Now." Cole froze, then slowly released his grip on the weapon. "Vance," he muttered. "Should have known you'd turn up." "Where's Dobbs?" Wade demanded, relieving Cole of his sidearm. A cold smile spread across Cole's weather-beaten face. "Wouldn't you like to know?" From below came the sudden crack of a shotgun, followed by a cry of pain. Wade's heart lurched. "Lily," he breathed, momentarily distracted. Cole seized the opportunity, twisting suddenly and striking out at Wade's gun hand. The revolver discharged harmlessly into the air as the two men grappled on the rooftop. Cole was younger and heavier, but Wade fought with the desperation of a man who had someone to protect. They rolled dangerously close to the roof's edge, trading blows as each sought the advantage. With a surge of strength, Wade managed to flip Cole onto his back, pinning him with a knee to the chest and a forearm across the throat. "Where is Dobbs?" he demanded again, increasing the pressure. Cole's face reddened as he struggled for breath. "General, store," he gasped out. "Setting. Charges." Wade's blood ran cold. Dobbs was planning to blow up Lily's store, her home. A second shotgun blast from the alley spurred him to action. With a swift, calculated blow to the temple, Wade knocked Cole unconscious, then bound his hands with the man's own belt before racing back to the ladder. He descended quickly, landing in the alley just as Lily emerged from the back door of the mercantile, her shotgun still smoking. "Dobbs was inside," she explained breathlessly. "He tried to ambush me when I checked the door. I winged him, but he got away, headed toward the general store." "Cole said he's setting charges," Wade informed her grimly. "He's going to blow it up." Lily's face paled. "We have to stop him." They ran through the alleyways toward the general store, avoiding the main street where the fire was still being battled. As they approached, Wade caught a glimpse of Dobbs through a side window of the store, moving hurriedly inside. "Stay back," Wade warned Lily. "If he's planted explosives, it's my store," Lily interrupted. "I know every inch of it. You take the front, I'll go in the back way." Before Wade could protest, she was moving toward the rear of the building. He cursed under his breath, then circled to the front entrance, staying low beneath the windows. The store's front door was ajar. Wade pushed it open carefully, his revolver at the ready. The interior was dim after the bright sunlight outside, but he could make out the familiar layout of shelves and counters. Nothing seemed disturbed. "Dobbs," he called out. "It's over." Cole's captured Hatcher and Weber too. A rustling sound came from behind a display of canned goods, followed by a pained chuckle. "Maybe so, Vance, but I ain't going to jail." "You're bleeding out, Dobbs," Wade said, moving cautiously forward. "You need a doctor." "What I need," Dobbs replied, his voice strained, "is for you to burn with this whole damn town." Wade glimpsed movement and fired, his bullet splintering the edge of a shelf as Dobbs ducked away. Return fire came immediately, forcing Wade to take cover behind the counter. "You know what your problem is, Vance," Dobbs called out, his voice moving toward the rear of the store. "You care too much. About the law, about justice, about that pretty shopkeeper." Wade's jaw tightened. "And your problem is you don't care enough about living to surrender while you still can." Dobbs laughed, the sound ending in a wet cough. "Too late for that. The fuse is already lit. This whole place goes up in less than 2 minutes. Wade's heart raced. He had to find the explosives, and fast. Scanning the store, he spotted a trail of blood leading toward the storeroom, the same direction Lily had gone. "Lily," he shouted, abandoning caution. "Get out! There's a bomb!" He vaulted over the counter and sprinted toward the storeroom, following the blood trail. As he reached the doorway, a shot rang out, the bullet whizzing past his ear. Dobbs stood in the center of the storeroom, his shoulder bleeding heavily from Lily's shotgun blast. In his other hand, he held a revolver pointed directly at Wade. "Too late, bounty hunter," he sneered. Behind him, Wade could see a small barrel with a lit fuse sputtering toward it, likely blasting powder from the mining camp. But what froze his blood was the sight of Lily lying motionless on the floor near the rear door. "Lily," Wade called out, his voice raw. "She came in quiet as a mouse," Dobbs gloated. "But not quiet enough." Rage unlike anything Wade had ever experienced surged through him. With a roar, he launched himself at Dobbs, heedless of the gun. Dobbs fired, the bullet grazing Wade's side, but it didn't slow his charge. He crashed into the outlaw with the force of a stampeding bull, driving him backward into the wall. Dobbs's head connected with a shelf edge with a sickening crack, and he crumpled to the floor, unconscious or dead. Wade didn't care which. He rushed to Lily's side, relief washing over him when he saw her chest rising and falling. A bruise was forming on her temple where Dobbs must have struck her, but she was alive. The hissing fuse snapped him back to their immediate danger. Wade scooped Lily into his arms and kicked open the rear door, carrying her as far from the building as he could before the inevitable explosion. They had barely cleared the alley when a deafening boom shook the ground. The force of the blast knocked Wade forward, and he turned his body to shield Lily as they fell. Heat washed over them, followed by debris raining down, splinters of wood, fragments of glass, pieces of merchandise. When the initial blast subsided, Wade pushed himself up to look back at the store. The rear section was engulfed in flames, the roof partially collapsed. The main storefront still stood, but fire was spreading rapidly throughout the structure. In his arms, Lily stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Wade," she murmured, disoriented. "I'm here," he assured her, helping her sit up. "Are you hurt?" She raised a hand to her head, wincing. "Just my pride. Dobbs caught me by surprise." Her eyes widened as she took in the burning building behind them. "My store? It's just a building," Wade said gently. "It can be rebuilt." Tears welled in Lily's eyes as she watched her home and livelihood burn. "My father built that store. It's all I had left of him." Wade didn't know what to say, how to comfort her for such a profound loss. Instead, he simply held her as townspeople rushed to form another bucket line, trying in vain to save what remained of the O'Malley General Store. Sheriff Tompkins found them there, sitting in the dirt behind what had been Lily's home. "Miss O'Malley, Mr. Vance." He called out, hurrying toward them. "Are you injured?" Wade helped Lily to her feet. "She needs a doctor. Where's Dobbs?" "Dead," the sheriff confirmed grimly. "Found him in what's left of the storeroom. Cole's been locked up, and Peterson tells me you've captured Hatcher himself." Wade nodded. "Hatcher and Weber are secured at the abandoned mining camp in the foothills. They won't be going anywhere soon." Tompkins looked impressed despite himself. "That's quite a feat, Mr. Vance. The territorial governor's been after Hatcher for years." The bounty will help rebuild the store, Wade said, glancing at Lily, who was staring at the burning building with a distant expression. Yes, well, the sheriff cleared his throat. About that. There's some paperwork to be filled out, statements to be taken. The marshal from Silver Creek is riding in tomorrow to formally arrest the prisoners. Wade nodded. Will be available. As Tompkins walked away to organize the firefighting efforts, Lily turned to Wade. Wade met her gaze steadily. I'm not leaving until I know you're taken care of. Something flickered in her eyes, gratitude, perhaps, or something deeper. And after that, it was a question Wade hadn't allowed himself to consider fully. What came after Hatcher? After completing the mission that had driven him for 2 long years, before he could formulate an answer, Mrs. Winters appeared, rushing toward them with expressions of horror and concern. Lily, oh my dear girl, she cried, enfolding Lily in a motherly embrace. Your poor store, but thank heavens you're alive. You'll stay with me, of course, until arrangements can be made. Lily accepted the hug with a grateful smile, though her eyes remained on Wade. Thank you, Mrs. Winters. That's very kind. The older woman turned to Wade, her previous suspicion replaced with genuine gratitude. And you, Mr. Vance. The whole town's talking about how you saved our Lily and captured those dreadful outlaws. Wade shifted uncomfortably under the praise. Miss O'Malley did most of the saving herself, madam. Mrs. Winters patted his arm. So modest. Well, you're welcome to stay at my boarding house as long as needed. No charge, of course. As she led Lily away toward the doctor's house, Lily glanced back over her shoulder at Wade. There was a question in her eyes, and Wade realized she was waiting to see if he would still be there when she returned, or if the completion of his mission meant he would ride on, as he always had before. Wade stood amid the chaos of firefighters and concerned townspeople, watching Lily's retreating figure. For the first time in years, the thought of moving on to the next bounty, the next town, held no appeal, but staying. That was a notion as foreign to him as the unexpected warmth he felt whenever Lily O'Malley looked his way. The sun was setting over Redemption Creek as Wade sat on the porch of Mrs. Winters' boarding house, cleaning his revolver by the light of a lantern. The town had gradually quieted after the day's excitement, though a guard remained posted at the jail where Cole was being held. The fire at the general store had been contained before it could spread to neighboring buildings, but Lily's store and home were a complete loss. All that remained was a charred skeleton of timber and stone, with a few broken items scattered among the ruins. Wade had spent the afternoon helping the marshal from Silver Creek collect coal from the jail and retrieve Hatcher and Weber from the mining camp. The outlaws were now securely locked in the Silver Creek jail, awaiting transport to the territorial capital for trial. Dobbs' body had been taken to the undertaker, to be buried in an unmarked grave at the edge of town. With Hatcher's capture, Wade had completed his mission, at least the part concerning his sister's murder. There were still 2 members of the original gang unaccounted for, but they had long since split from Hatcher and were rumored to be operating far to the south, near the Mexican border. The door of the boarding house opened behind him, and Wade turned to see Lily stepping onto the porch. A small bandage covered the bruise on her temple, but otherwise she appeared recovered from the day's ordeal. "May I join you?" she asked, gesturing to the empty chair beside him. Wade nodded, holstering his cleaned revolver and setting the gun oil aside. "How's your head?" "Dr. Williams says I'll live," Lily replied with a small smile. "Just a bump, nothing serious." She sat beside him, her hands folded in her lap. In the lantern light, with her hair loose around her shoulders and wearing a simple borrowed dress, she looked younger and more vulnerable than the determined woman who had faced down outlaws with a shotgun. "I hear the marshal was quite impressed with your capture of Hatcher," she said after a moment of comfortable silence. Wade shrugged. "He's worth more impressed than dead." Lily studied him. "The bounty will be substantial. 500 for Hatcher, 300 for Weber, 250 for Cole," Wade confirmed. "Plus whatever reward the stage company had posted for Dobbs." "More than enough to start over somewhere," Lily murmured, gazing out at the darkened street. Wade followed her gaze to where the silhouette of her ruined store was just visible against the night sky. "Or to rebuild right here." Lily turned to him, surprise evident in her expression. "You think I should stay? After everything that's happened? This is your home," Wade said simply. "These people are your community. They need that store and they need you." A ghost of a smile touched Lily's lips. "For someone who claims to be just passing through, Mr. Vance, you seem to have developed a keen understanding of our little town." Wade couldn't help but return her smile. "I'm observant. It's part of the job." "And is it also part of the job to risk your life for a shopkeeper you just met?" she asked softly. The question hung in the air between them, laden with meaning. Wade considered his answer carefully. "No," he admitted finally. "That was something else entirely." Lily's eyes held his, searching. "What happens now, Wade? With Hatcher captured and the bounty collected, what's next for you?" It was the same question he'd been asking himself since the fire. The same question he'd avoided answering earlier. "I don't know," he said honestly. "For so long, finding Hatcher has been my purpose. I haven't thought much beyond that." "You mentioned 2 more men from your sister's murder," Lily recalled. "Will you go after them next?" Wade looked down at his hands that had become accustomed to weapons, to violence, to the lonely life of a bounty hunter. "Eventually. But they're far from here, and the trail is cold." "So you have time," Lily suggested, a note of something like hope in her voice. Wade glanced at her, struck again by the quiet strength in her face. "Time for what, Lily?" "To figure out what you want. What comes after vengeance." She hesitated, then added softly, "Whether there might be a place for you here." The implications of her words were clear. She was offering him a reason to stay, not just for a few days or weeks, but perhaps for something more permanent. "I'm not sure I know how to live any other way anymore," Wade admitted. "The trail, the hunt, it's become who I am." "Is it?" Lily challenged gently. "Or is it just what you've been doing while you heal?" Her perception startled him. No one had ever seen through his carefully constructed facade so easily. Before he could respond, the door opened again, and Mrs. Winters emerged with a tray. "I've brought you both some coffee," she announced cheerfully, "and some of my apple cake. You must be famished after such a day." She set the tray on the small table between them, then patted Lily's shoulder. "Don't stay up too late, dear. You need your rest." With a knowing smile that suggested she was well aware she had interrupted something important, Mrs. Winters retreated back into the house. Lily poured the coffee, handing Wade a cup. "She means well." "She cares about you," Wade observed, accepting the coffee gratefully. "They all do. I've seen how the town rallied today." "They'd welcome you too, you know," Lily said, her eyes on her cup. "After what you did, you're something of a hero in Redemption Creek." Wade shook his head. "I'm no hero, Lily. Tell that to Sheriff Tompkins. He's already talking about offering you a deputy position." Wade nearly choked on his coffee. "Me? A lawman?" Lily's laugh was warm and genuine. "I had the same reaction, but he's serious. Said a man with your skills would be an asset to the town." The idea was so unexpected that Wade didn't know how to respond. He'd spent years operating outside the law, not breaking it, necessarily, but certainly bending it when necessary to bring in his quarry. "I don't think I'm cut out for wearing a badge," he said finally. Lily studied him over the rim of her cup. What are you cut out for, Wade Vance? If not a bounty hunter and not a lawman, then what? It was a profound question, one that cut to the heart of his uncertainty about the future. Who was he, if not the man who had spent years seeking justice for his sister's family? I was a rancher once, he said quietly, surprising himself with the admission. Before everything, had a small spread in Wyoming territory, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Lily's expression softened. You never mentioned that. Not much to tell, sold it to fund my search for Hatcher and his gang. Do you miss it, the ranch life? Wade considered the question honestly. Parts of it, the open country, working with my hands to build something rather than just hunting men, the quiet mornings. There's good ranchland outside of town, Lily said carefully. The Peterson place adjoins an unclaimed section that would make a fine start. Wade raised an eyebrow. You seem to have given this some thought. A blush colored Lily's cheeks. I may have asked around, just considering options. The realization that she had been thinking about ways to make him stay, that she wanted him to stay, filled Wade with an unexpected warmth. A man would need a good reason to put down roots somewhere new, he said, watching her closely. Lily met his gaze steadily. And is there anything in Redemption Creek that might qualify as a good reason? The air between them seemed to still, charged with possibility. Wade set down his coffee cup and reached across the space between them, taking Lily's hand in his own. There might be, he said softly. Someone worth staying for. Lily's fingers curled around his, warm and certain. I'm rebuilding the store, she said. It won't be the same, but it will be mine, a new start. It's a big undertaking for one person, Wade observed. Yes, she agreed, it is. The unspoken invitation hung in the air between them. Wade found himself standing at a crossroads he hadn't expected to reach so soon, or perhaps ever. The path of the bounty hunter stretched before him, familiar and solitary. But beside it, a new path had appeared, one that led to this town, this woman, and possibilities he'd long since abandoned. I'm not good at staying in one place, he warned her. It's been a long time since I've tried. Lily smiled. And I'm not good at letting people help me. We all have things to learn. Wade found himself returning her smile, feeling something long dormant stirring within him, hope perhaps, or the beginnings of healing. The bounty money, he said suddenly. I want you to have it, to rebuild the store. Lily's eyes widened. Wade, no. You earned that money. Hunting Hatcher was never about the money for me, he insisted, and your store was destroyed because of my pursuit of him. It's only right. I can't accept that. Lily shook her head. But she hesitated, then continued more softly, perhaps a partnership. Your investment, my experience. We could rebuild together. A partnership. The word held implications that went far beyond a simple business arrangement, and they both knew it. You trust me with that? Wade asked, genuinely surprised. You've known me less than 3 days. Sometimes, Lily said, squeezing his hand gently. You just know when something or someone is worth taking a chance on. In that moment, looking into Lily's hopeful eyes, Wade felt the burden he'd carried for so long begin to lighten. Vengeance had driven him for years, consumed his every waking thought. But here, unexpectedly, was a chance at something different, something better. A partnership, he agreed finally, to start with. The smile that illuminated Lily's face was worth more than any bounty he'd ever collected. To start with, she echoed, her voice filled with promise. As they sat together on the porch, their hands still joined. Wade Vance, bounty hunter, avenger. Wanderer felt the first real stirrings of belonging he'd experienced since losing his sister's family. Redemption Creek had lived up to its name, offering him a chance at a new beginning he hadn't known he was seeking. And the woman beside him, with her courage and her kindness, had shown him that there was indeed life after vengeance if he was brave enough to claim it. 3 months later, the newly rebuilt O'Malley and Vance General Store opened its doors to the citizens of Redemption Creek. The building was larger than the original, with expanded inventory and a more spacious living quarters above. A small sign hanging beside the main entrance announced Wade Vance, licensed bounty agent, a compromise between his former profession and his new life in town. The grand opening celebration drew nearly everyone in Redemption Creek. Tables laden with food stretched along the boardwalk, and Peterson's fiddle provided lively music for dancing in the street. The mood was festive, a testament to the community's resilience and their affection for the store's proprietors. Lily stood behind the polished new counter, her heart full as she watched townspeople explore the store with exclamations of delight. She wore her best dress for the occasion, a deep blue that complemented her honey-brown hair, which was styled more elegantly than her usual practical arrangement. "Miss O'Malley," called Mrs. Winters, approaching the counter with her usual enthusiasm. "Or should I be practicing Mrs. Vance already?" she added with a meaningful glance at the simple gold ring adorning Lily's left hand. Lily smiled, touching the ring that Wade had presented to her just a week earlier. "Not for another month, Mrs. Winters. The wedding isn't until June, remember?" As if the whole town could forget, the older woman laughed. "It's going to be the social event of the year. And to think, just a few months ago I was warning you to stay away from that dangerous bounty hunter, I recall," Lily said dryly. Mrs. Winters patted her hand. "Well, I'm big enough to admit when I'm wrong. That man adores you, dear. Anyone with eyes can see it." Lily followed Mrs. Winters' gaze to where Wade stood near the front door, deep in conversation with Sheriff Tompkins and the territorial judge who had come for Hatcher's trial. He was dressed in a clean white shirt and dark vest, his usually unruly hair neatly combed for the occasion. As if sensing her attention, Wade glanced up, meeting her eyes across the crowded store. His smile, still rare but increasingly frequent, warmed her to her core. "Yes," Lily agreed softly. "I'm very fortunate." "As is he," Mrs. Winters assured her. "Now, I must go supervise the refreshment table before the Henderson boys devour all the cake." As the older woman bustled away, Lily took a moment to absorb the scene around her. 3 months ago, she had lost everything: her store, her home, nearly her life. Yet from those ashes had risen something she hadn't known she was missing: partnership, love, a future brighter than any she had imagined for herself after her father's death. Wade made his way to her side, expertly navigating through the crowd of well-wishers. "Holding up all right?" he asked, his voice low for her ears alone. "We can ask them to leave if you're tired." Lily shook her head, touched by his concern. "I'm fine. Happy, actually." "Good," he said, his blue eyes crinkling at the corners. "Because Peterson's threatening to play that fiddle until midnight, and I suspect we're expected to dance at some point." "The fearless bounty hunter, afraid of a little dancing," Lily teased. Wade caught her hand, bringing it to his lips in a gesture that still made her heart skip. "Not afraid. Just cautious. There are at least 3 grandmothers out there waiting to critique my technique." Lily laughed. "They'll be too busy discussing our wedding plans to notice your footwork." "Speaking of the wedding," Wade said, his expression growing more serious, "I received a telegram this morning from an old friend in Texas. He thinks he's located Simmons and Barrett." Lily's smile faded slightly. "The last 2 members of the gang responsible for his sister's family's deaths. Will you go?" It was a question that had hovered between them, unasked until now. Would Wade's quest for vengeance eventually pull him away from the life they were building? Wade's answer was immediate and certain. "No, I've forwarded the information to the Rangers. They'll handle it. Are you sure? Lily pressed, studying his face. I would understand if I'm sure, Wade interrupted gently. I've spent enough of my life chasing ghosts, Lily. What matters is here, now, with you. Relief and love washed over her in equal measure. When did you become so wise, Mr. Vance? A hint of his old wry smile touched his lips. Must be the company I keep, Miss O'Malley. From outside came the sound of Peterson's fiddle striking up a lively tune, accompanied by cheers and the stomping of feet as dancers took their places in the street. I believe that's our cue, Wade said, offering his arm with exaggerated formality. Lily took it, allowing him to guide her from behind the counter. As they stepped through the door onto the boardwalk, the crowd parted, making space for them in the center of the impromptu dance floor. Ladies and gentlemen, Sheriff Tompkins called out, raising a glass. A toast to Lily O'Malley and Wade Vance. May their store prosper and their upcoming marriage be blessed with happiness and many children. A chorus of hear, hear rose from the crowd, along with the clinking of glasses and good-natured laughter. Wade's arm slipped around Lily's waist as the music began again, drawing her into the dance. He moved with surprising grace for a man who claimed to be wary of dancing, guiding her confidently among the other couples. Children, Wade murmured near her ear as they turned. The sheriff seems to have our future well planned. Lily felt a blush rise to her cheeks. Mrs. Winter's influence, no doubt. She's already hinting about knitting baby blankets. Wade's arm tightened around her waist. Would that be so terrible? A family of our own? The question held a vulnerability that Lily had come to recognize in him moments when the hardened exterior of the bounty hunter fell away, revealing the man beneath who still dared to hope for ordinary happiness. Not terrible at all, she assured him, her heart full. In fact, I can't think of anything I want more. As they danced beneath the stars, surrounded by the community that had become their own, Lily marveled at the journey that had brought them to this moment. An outlaw's threat, a stranger's intervention, and 4 simple words, "She rides with me," had changed the course of her life forever. Wade Vance had ridden into town, a solitary bounty hunter seeking vengeance. He would remain as something far different. A partner, a husband, a man who had found his redemption in the most unexpected of places, the heart of a shopkeeper who had taught him that justice and love were not mutually exclusive, but rather 2 paths leading to the same destination, home. 10 years later, the setting sun cast long shadows across the prosperous ranch nestled in the foothills outside Redemption Creek. The main house, a handsome 2-story structure of timber and stone, glowed with warmth as lamps were lit against the gathering dusk. In the yard, chickens pecked at their final meal of the day while horses nickered softly in the nearby corral. On the wide front porch, Lily Vance sat in a rocking chair, mending a small shirt with neat, practiced stitches. Her honey-brown hair, now streaked with the occasional strand of silver, was pulled back in a simple knot at the nape of her neck. Years of Montana weather had added fine lines around her eyes, but they only enhanced the character of her face. The sound of approaching hoofbeats drew her attention from her sewing. She shaded her eyes against the setting sun to see 3 riders coming up the long drive that connected the ranch to the main road. The lead rider, tall and straight-backed on a powerful chestnut gelding, was instantly recognizable to her. Even after a decade of marriage, the sight of Wade returning home still brought a flutter to her heart. Beside him rode a boy of 9, sitting confidently on a pinto pony. Thomas Vance had his father's blue eyes and his mother's determined chin, a combination that had proven both charming and challenging as he grew. The third rider, on a smaller brown mare, was their daughter Sarah, 7 years old, and already insisting she could ride as well as her brother. Her long braids bounced against her back as she urged her pony to keep pace with the others. Lily set aside her mending and stood, smiling as the riders approached. They had been to town for supplies and to check on the general store, which was now managed by Lily's cousin who had moved west 5 years earlier. "Mama," Sarah called out, waving enthusiastically. "We saw a stagecoach with 6 horses, and Papa let me pick out new ribbons." "Sounds exciting," Lily called back. "Walk those horses to the barn before you come tell me all about it." Wade dismounted in one fluid motion that belied his 40 years, then helped Sarah down from her mare. "You heard your mother. Take care of your mounts first." "Yes, sir," Thomas replied seriously, already leading his pony toward the barn. Sarah skipped alongside her brother, chattering about the ribbons and the stagecoach and everything else she had seen in town. Wade approached the porch, removing his hat as he climbed the steps. A decade of ranch life had added silver at his temples and deepened the lines around his eyes, but he moved with the same quiet confidence he had always possessed. The gun belt that had once been a constant fixture was now reserved only for occasional trips into the wilderness or rare assignments as a special deputy when the sheriff needed expertise. "Successful trip?" Lily asked as he bent to kiss her. "MMM," he confirmed against her lips. "Though your cousin sends word that we're late delivering the month's beef order to the hotel." Lily laughed softly. "Daniel takes that store more seriously than I ever did." "He's good at it," Wade agreed, settling into the chair beside hers. "Town's growing. The new railroad spur has brought 3 new businesses in the last month alone." "And how is Sheriff Tompkins holding up with all the newcomers?" Wade grinned. "Threatening retirement again. Says his deputy does all the real work anyway." "He's been threatening retirement since we met," Lily reminded him, resuming her mending. "I'll believe it when I see it." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the last rays of sun paint the distant mountains in gold and purple. From inside the house came the sound of their housekeeper, Mrs. Finch, preparing dinner, the savory aroma of roasting chicken wafting through the open windows. "I ran into Peterson in town," Wade said after a while. "His nephew's back from college back east, got himself a law degree." "That's wonderful," Lily replied. "I know Matthias is proud. Is young James planning to practice in Redemption Creek?" Wade nodded. "Opening an office next month. Says a growing town needs proper legal representation." He paused, then added more casually, "He asked about Sarah." Lily's eyebrows rose. "Sarah? She's 7 years old, Wade." "I know that," he said defensively. "And I told him so in no uncertain terms." He laughed and said he was just commenting on how she's growing up to look like her mother. Lily said, hiding her amusement. Wade's protectiveness toward their daughter was legendary in Redemption Creek. The door to the barn opened, and Thomas and Sarah emerged, having completed their chores with the horses. They raced across the yard toward the house, their earlier fatigue apparently forgotten. "Slow down," Lily called automatically, though she knew it was futile. Their children were bundles of energy, especially Thomas, who seemed to approach everything at full speed. The children clattered onto the porch, both talking at once about their day in town. Sarah proudly displayed her new hair ribbons, while Thomas recounted overhearing men at the saloon discussing a bear sighting in the hills. "Is it true you shot a bear once, Papa?" he asked eagerly. Wade exchanged a glance with Lily. Their son's fascination with his father's former life as a bounty hunter was an ongoing source of mild concern. "Yes, but only because it was threatening my camp," Wade replied carefully. "Bears are best left alone, son." "Could you teach me to shoot like you?" Thomas pressed. In case I need to protect Sarah from bears. Sarah rolled her eyes. I don't need protecting. Mama says girls can learn to shoot too. Your mama is right, Wade agreed, ruffling Sarah's hair. But neither of you is quite ready for firearms training. Patience, Thomas. The boy sighed dramatically but nodded. Yes, sir. Go wash up for dinner, Lily instructed, setting aside her mending, and check if Mrs. Finch needs help setting the table. The children disappeared into the house, their boots thundering on the wooden floors despite constant reminders to walk quietly. He's determined to be like you, Lily observed when they were alone again. Wade's expression grew thoughtful. Not sure that's what I want for him. Which part? Lily asked softly. The bounty hunting, or the years of solitude? Both. Wade reached for her hand, his calloused fingers entwining with hers. I want more for him. For them both. Lily squeezed his hand reassuringly. They'll find their own paths just as we did. All we can do is give them roots and wings. Wade smiled at that. When did you get so wise, Mrs. Vance? Must be the company I keep, she replied, echoing his words from long ago. The comfortable moment was interrupted by Mrs. Finch calling them to dinner. They rose together, Wade's hand finding the small of Lily's back in a gesture that had become second nature over their years together. Inside, the dining room was warm and inviting, the table set with simple but elegant dishes that reflected Lily's practical nature and appreciation for beauty. Thomas and Sarah were already seated, faces freshly scrubbed, eagerly eyeing the roasted chicken and vegetables that Mrs. Finch was placing on the table. Everything looks wonderful, Mrs. Finch, Lily said appreciatively. Thank you. The housekeeper, a widow who had come to them 5 years earlier when managing both the ranch and 2 young children had become overwhelming, beamed with pleasure. Just doing my job, Mrs. Vance. Will you be needing anything else this evening? No, thank you. Enjoy your evening. As Mrs. Finch retired to her rooms at the back of the house, the family began their meal, the children recounting more details of their day in town. Thomas had spotted a new colt at the livery and was already campaigning for one of his own, while Sarah described in great detail the new fabrics that had arrived at the mercantile. Wade listened to them with evident pride, though he said little. Lily had long since grown accustomed to his quiet nature at family gatherings. While not as reserved as he had been when they first met, Wade Vance would never be a man of many words. His love was expressed in actions rather than speech, in the gentle hand on her shoulder as he passed, in the hours spent teaching Thomas to rope and ride, in the patient way he braided Sarah's hair when Lily was busy. After dinner, as was their custom, the family gathered in the sitting room. Thomas sprawled on the rug with a book of adventure stories, while Sarah curled up beside her father on the sofa, showing him how to tie her new ribbons into bows. Lily sat nearby in her favorite armchair, working on a piece of embroidery and enjoying the peaceful scene. This was their life, now so different from the danger and uncertainty that had marked their first meeting. The O'Malley and Vance General Store still operated successfully in town, providing a steady income alongside the ranch, which had grown over the years to become one of the most prosperous in the county. Wade had occasionally taken on special assignments as a bounty hunter when particularly dangerous criminals threatened the territory. But those instances had become increasingly rare, as his reputation alone often proved sufficient deterrent. These days, he was more likely to be asked for advice by the sheriff than to strap on his gun and ride out after outlaws. Lily sometimes marveled at how completely her life had transformed from that day when outlaws had threatened her in the street, and a stranger had drawn his gun to protect her. From shopkeeper to rancher's wife, from solitary independence to the rich complexity of family life, It was a journey she could never have anticipated, but would never regret. As the evening grew later, she sent the children to bed with kisses and reminders about prayers. When they were gone, Lily and Wade stepped out onto the porch again, as they often did, to enjoy a few quiet moments together before retiring. The night was clear, stars scattered like diamond dust across the vast Montana sky. A half-moon provided enough light to silhouette the outbuildings and corrals of their ranch against the darkness. "I ran into Mrs. Winters in town as well," Wade said, breaking the comfortable silence. "She mentioned it's nearly our anniversary." Lily smiled. "As if you needed reminding." 10 years, he mused, his arm slipping around her waist. "Sometimes it feels like yesterday that I rode into Redemption Creek tracking Hatcher, and other times, like I've never known any other life but this one," he admitted. "With you, the children, the ranch." Lily leaned into him, savoring his warmth against the cool night air. "Any regrets?" Wade turned to face her fully, his hands coming up to frame her face with a tenderness that still had the power to make her breath catch. "Not a single one," he said with quiet certainty. "Every mile I rode, every trail I followed, every decision I made, they all led me here. To you, how could I regret that?" Lily's heart swelled with love for this man who had walked through fire and darkness to find his way to peace. "I love you, Wade Vance." "And I love you, Lily O'Malley Vance," he replied, using her full name in the way he did only in their most intimate moments. "More than I ever thought possible." Their kiss was gentle, familiar yet never routine, a reaffirmation of the bond that had grown stronger with each passing year. When they parted, Lily noticed something in Wade's hand, a small velvet pouch. "What's this?" she asked curiously. Wade looked almost shy as he placed it in her palm. "Anniversary gift. A bit early, but I wanted to give it to you privately." Lily opened the pouch, tipping its contents into her hand. A delicate gold locket gleamed in the moonlight, its surface engraved with intricate scrollwork. "Oh, Wade," she breathed, opening the locket to find miniature portraits of Thomas and Sarah inside. "It's beautiful." "There's an inscription on the back," he said softly. Lily turned the locket over, reading the words engraved there. "She rides with me always." Tears pricked at her eyes as she recognized the phrase that had started their journey together, the words Wade had spoken to Hatcher when he'd intervened that fateful day. "Help me put it on," she asked, her voice slightly unsteady. Wade took the locket and fastened it around her neck, his fingers brushing against her skin. "Perfect," he murmured, pressing a kiss to the spot where the chain met her neck. Lily turned in his arms, rising on tiptoe to kiss him again, this time with more intent. "I believe it's time to retire, Mr. Vance." Wade's eyes darkened with understanding and desire. "Lead the way, Mrs. Vance." Hand in hand, they walked back into their home, closing the door on the vast Montana night. Outside, the stars continued their age-old dance across the heavens. Inside, in the warmth and safety of the home they had built together, Lily and Wade Vance continued their own journey, the greatest adventure either of them had ever known. From chance encounter to enduring love, from danger to sanctuary, from solitude to family, they had found in each other not just a partner for the trail, but a companion for life's entire journey. And as they had discovered, that was the greatest bounty of all.